She said it was just for fun, but the human's DNA changed her life forever. Marcus Webb had always believed his biggest mistake was choosing xenobiology over engineering. Sitting in the cramped shuttle hurtling toward the Nexus station, he reconsidered that assessment. His biggest mistake was clearly saying yes when Commander Hayes asked if he spoke fluent Catherian. Technically, he did. Technically, was about to become his downfall. The Nexus station sprawled before them like a crystalline flower blooming in the void, its petals housing delegates from dozens of species. Marcus adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform, the fabric, scratching against his neck like a reminder of his inadequacy. He was supposed to be translating trade agreements, not whatever political circus awaited him. "Remember, Webb," Commander Hayes said, his weathered face serious, "this summit prevents a war. The Catherian Empire nearly glassed half our colonies over that shipping dispute. One wrong word from you could restart the whole mess." No pressure at all, Marcus thought, watching alien vessels dock at various ports. He'd studied the Catherians. Extensively fascinated by their warrior culture and advanced biotechnology, he'd never expected to meet one in person, let alone serve as Earth's primary liaison. The station's interior took his breath away. Soaring arches of living crystal pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, while gravity wells allowed beings to walk on walls and ceilings. Delegates from across the galaxy mingled in the central plaza, their conversations creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and harmonics. Then he saw her. She stood head and shoulders above the crowd, easily 6.5 feet tall. Her presence, commanding attention from every being in the vicinity, her skin held the pale luminescence of moonlight, contrasting sharply with the cascade of blonde hair that flowed like liquid starlight down her back. She wore armor that seemed grown rather than forged, its biometallic surface shifting between silver and gold. Zara Cathara, crown princess of the Catherian military caste. Their eyes met across the plaza, and Marcus felt something electric pass. Between them, her gaze was intense, predatory, like she was evaluating whether he posed a threat or merely an inconvenience. When she began walking toward him, other delegates stepped aside automatically. "You must be the human translator," she said, her voice carrying the musical accent of her people. "I am Zara Cathara. I suppose you are Marcus Webb, Your Highness." Marcus managed, attempting what he hoped was an appropriate bow. "It's an honor to meet you." She studied him with amber eyes that seemed to glow with their own inner light. How refreshing. Most humans either grovel or swagger. He seemed genuinely nervous. Before Marcus could respond, a commotion erupted near the ceremonial platform. Delegates gathered in excited clusters, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of confusion. Commander Hayes appeared at Marcus's elbow, his face pale. "Webb, we have a problem," he whispered urgently. "There's been a miscommunication. The Catherians interpreted your assignment as something more than translation." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked, though a cold dread was already settling in his stomach. Zara tilted her head, listening to the rapid-fire conversation between several Catherian officials. Her expression shifted from confusion to surprise to something that might have been amusement. "It appears," she said slowly, "that your diplomatic corps has just agreed to a bonding ceremony. Between us?" "A what ceremony?" Marcus's voice cracked. "Slightly. A marriage," Zara replied, her tone suggesting she found the situation more interesting than alarming. "According to Catherian law, you have just been designated as my ceremonial mate for the duration of the peace negotiations." The plaza seemed to spin around Marcus. "There has to be some mistake. I'm just a translator. I don't have the authority to marry anyone, especially not an alien princess." "Unfortunately," Commander Hayes said grimly, "in Catherian culture, the designated speaker carries full diplomatic weight. Your acceptance of the liaison position was interpreted as consent to whatever arrangements were necessary for peace." Zara stepped closer, and Marcus caught her scent, something like ozone and exotic flowers. "Do not look so terrified, Marcus. Webb, among my people, ceremonial bonds can be dissolved once their political purpose is served. Onid only survived the next few weeks without embarrassing either of our species." "Survive?" Marcus repeated weakly for the first time. Zara smiled. and the expression transformed her face from intimidating to devastatingly beautiful. "I do not bite unless provoked." Usually, the ceremony preparations began immediately, leaving Marcus no time to fully process what was happening. Therian tradition demanded the bonding occur within hours of the agreement. The station's diplomatic corps scrambled to accommodate their customs. As Marcus was fitted for ceremonial robes that seemed designed to make him look as awkward as possible, he caught glimpses of Zara being prepared by her own attendants. She moved with fluid grace through the elaborate rituals, every gesture speaking of generations of royal training. "This is insane," Marcus muttered to his reflection in the polished metal mirror. "Yesterday I was cataloging plant samples. Today I'm marrying an alien warrior princess." When the ceremony began, Marcus stood before an audience of beings he couldn't even name, wearing robes that made him feel like an actor in a cosmic joke. Zara appeared beside him like a vision from another world, her ceremonial dress seeming to capture and reflect every light in the chamber. The Catharian official, conducting the ceremony, spoke in the flowing, musical language of their people. Marcus understood every word, which somehow made it worse. They were being bound not just politically, but biologically. Their genetic patterns recorded and intertwined according to ancient custom. When Zara took his hand, her skin was warm and slightly electric, as if energy flowed just beneath the surface. She squeezed gently, and when he looked up at her, she whispered, "Breathe, Marcus Webb. You look as though you might faint." "Still processing," he whispered back. "There will be time for that later. For now, simply survive." The ceremony concluded, with them wearing matching biometallic bands that pulsed with synchronized light. According to the official, they were now bound until the completion of the peace negotiations or mutual agreement to dissolve the union. As the crowd dispersed and the reality of his situation settled in, Marcus found himself alone with his new wife. Zara studied him with those disconcerting amber eyes, and he realized his life had just taken a turn he never could have imagined. The quarters assigned to them were luxurious by any standard, carved from living crystal that hummed softly and adjusted its luminescence to their biorhythms. 2 separate sleeping chambers, connected to a shared common area overlooking the stations. Stellar gardens. Marcus stood at the massive viewport, watching ships drift between the stars like luminous fish in a cosmic ocean. "You may take the east chamber," Zara announced, her voice echoing slightly in the crystalline space. "I require the west for my meditation practices. Do not disturb me during the dawn hours unless the station is under attack." Marcus turned to find her removing pieces of her ceremonial armor with practiced efficiency. Underneath, she wore a form-fitting bodysuit that revealed the lean, powerful lines of her physique. He tried not to stare, and failed spectacularly. "This is really happening, isn't it?" he said, more to himself than to her. "You seem to have difficulty accepting reality," Zara observed, setting her armor pieces in precise arrangements on a crystal shelf that materialized from the wall. "Among my people, adaptation is survival. You would do well to learn this quickly. It's just that yesterday, I was a xenobiologist studying plant samples. Today, I'm married to an alien princess. You'll have to forgive me if I need a moment to adjust." Zara paused in her unpacking, something shifting in her expression. "You study life forms? Specifically, how different species adapt to environmental pressures. Evolutionary biology, genetic variation, that sort of thing." Marcus realized he was babbling but couldn't seem to stop. "Your people fascinate me from a scientific perspective. The biointegration with your technology, the way your skin conducts energy, the luminescent properties of your hair." He trailed off, realizing Zara was staring at him with an unreadable expression. "You find us fascinating?" she asked slowly. "Well, yes. The Catharian biomatrix is unlike anything we've seen. The way you've evolved to interface directly with living technology suggests centuries of guided development. It's remarkable." Something flickered across her features, gone too quickly to interpret. "Most species find us frightening." "You are intimidating," Marcus admitted. "But intimidating and fascinating aren't mutually exclusive." For the first time since he'd met her, Zara seemed genuinely surprised. She resumed her unpacking, but Marcus caught her glancing at him when she thought he wasn't looking. That evening, they shared their first meal together. The station's diplomatic quarters provided cuisine suitable for both their species. Though Marcus struggled with utensils that seemed designed for hands with more joints than his possessed. "You are not eating," Zara observed. "Still figuring out how these work," Marcus said, holding up the complex eating implement. Without a word, Zara reached across the table and adjusted his grip, her fingers cool against his skin. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through him, and from her sharp intake of breath, she felt it too. "Like this," she said quietly, guiding his movements. The Catherian dining tool adapts to the user's biosignature. You must relax and let it conform. Under her guidance, the utensil shifted subtly, becoming more familiar in his grip. But Marcus found himself focusing more on the way her blonde hair caught the ambient light, creating an almost hypnotic shimmer around her face. "Better?" she asked, withdrawing her hands. "Much thank you." They ate in comfortable silence after that, and Marcus began to notice details about her he'd missed during the chaos of the ceremony. The way she moved with unconscious grace, even performing simple tasks like eating. The slight tilt of her head when she was thinking, the almost musical quality of her breathing. "May I ask you something?" Marcus said as they finished their meal. Zara nodded. "What did you mean earlier about ceremonial bonds being dissolved? How does that work exactly?" "When the political necessity ends, we present ourselves before a Catherian tribunal. If both parties agree, the biomatrix connection is severed and we return to our separate lives." She met his eyes directly. "It is a simple process. Painless. And if one party doesn't agree?" Zara's expression became carefully neutral. "That would be ... complicated." Before Marcus could ask what she meant, an alert chimed through their quarters. Commander Hayes' voice filled the room through the communication system. "Attention all diplomatic personnel. We've received word of unrest in the outer colonies. Several extremist groups are protesting the peace negotiations. Security protocols are now in effect. All bonded pairs are required to remain in their quarters. Until further notice." Marcus looked at Zara. "Bonded pairs. It appears we are considered a security risk," she said, with something that might have been amusement. "Two species bound together, representing the success of these negotiations. We have become symbols." "Wonderful," Marcus muttered, as if responding. To his mood, the lighting in their quarters dimmed to a warmer spectrum. The living crystal walls pulsed gently, creating an oddly intimate atmosphere. "I should clarify something," Zara said suddenly. "This bonding ceremony, it is not merely symbolic for my people. The biomatrix connection creates a genuine link between us. You may experience sensations ... that are not entirely your own." Marcus felt his cheeks warm. "What kind of sensations? Emotional resonance? Enhanced empathy? Occasionally shared dreams?" She studied his face carefully. "It will fade when the bond is dissolved, but until then, we are connected in ways that go beyond mere politics." As if to prove her point, Marcus suddenly felt a wash of emotion that wasn't his own. Loneliness tinged with a fierce kind of pride, and an unexpected vulnerability. He looked at Zara, who had gone very still. "You felt that," she said. "It wasn't a question." "Yes, then you understand. This arrangement may have begun as political necessity, but the connection between us is real. We must be careful not to let it complicate matters." That night, Marcus lay in his crystal sleeping chamber, acutely aware of Zara's presence through the wall that separated them. He could feel her restlessness, her difficulty settling into sleep in an unfamiliar place, without really thinking. About it, he projected a sense of calm, of safety. The restlessness stilled when he finally drifted off. His dreams were filled with images that weren't entirely his own. Memories of a golden world under twin suns, of training grounds and ceremonies, of a young Catherian girl learning to be a warrior, but yearning for something more. He woke to find Zara standing at his chamber entrance. Her pale skin luminous in the dawn light filtering through the crystal walls. "You gave me peace," she said softly. "Through the connection?" "I have not slept so well in years." Marcus sat up, suddenly aware that he wore only sleep garments, and that Zara's own nightclothes revealed more of her luminescent skin than he'd seen before. "I didn't mean to intrude," he said. You did not intrude. You gave comfort freely. She stepped closer, and Marcus caught that intoxicating scent again. Among my people, such generosity is precious. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the air between them charged with possibility. Then Zara seemed to catch herself. We should prepare for the day, she said, stepping back. The negotiations continue, and we have roles to play. As she turned to leave, Marcus caught the echo of her thoughts through their connection. She was fighting the same attraction he felt, the same impossible pull towards something that could only complicate their already complex situation. This was definitely going to be more challenging than either of them had anticipated. 3 days into their bonded arrangement, Marcus had begun to settle into a routine that felt almost normal. He translated during morning sessions, Zara attended warrior councils in the afternoons, and they shared meals while discussing the intricacies of interspecies diplomacy. The biomatrix connection between them had strengthened, allowing them to communicate with subtle glances and shared emotions that made their public appearances. Seamlessly coordinated, then Commander Hayes delivered news that shattered their comfortable rhythm. There's been an incident at the mining colony on Kepler's Edge, he announced, his weathered face grim as he addressed the assembled diplomatic team. Extremist factions have taken hostages. They're demanding an end to all human-Catherian cooperation. Adara straightened in her chair, every line of her body shifting to combat readiness. What type of extremists? Mixed group? Some human purists? Some Catherian separatists who believe your people are contaminating themselves by associating with us? Hayes turned to Marcus and Zara specifically. They've specifically mentioned your bonding as an example of what they're fighting against. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Through their connection, he sensed Zara's immediate shift to tactical thinking, her mind already calculating threats and responses. What do you need from us? Zara asked. A rescue mission. The colony's in disputed space, so we need joint human-Catherian authorization to enter. As bonded representatives, you too carry that authority. Hayes hesitated. It won't be safe. Aren't politicians or diplomats? They're armed militants who see you as symbols of everything they hate. When do we leave? Marcus asked, surprising himself with his immediate acceptance. Zara glanced at him, something like approval flickering in her amber eyes. Their shuttle launched within hours, cutting through hyperspace toward the Outer Rim territories. Marcus spent the journey reviewing intelligence reports, while Zara checked and rechecked her weapons with the methodical precision of a born warrior. You do not have to do this, she said as they approached their destination. I could handle the rescue. Alone, we're bonded, remember? For better or worse, we're a team now. Marcus managed to smile despite his nervousness. Besides, someone needs to translate if we encounter Catherian extremists. If we encounter the human ones, then you'll protect me and I'll try not to be completely useless. Zara studied his face for a long moment. You are braver than you believe, Marcus Webb. Before he could respond, their shuttle shuddered as it entered the colony's atmosphere. The mining outpost sprawled across a barren, the landscape of red stone and crystalline formations, its prefab buildings clustered around massive extraction sites. Smoke rose from several locations, and the communication arrays had been destroyed. They landed at a safe distance from the main compound, using the rocky terrain for cover. Zara moved like liquid shadow between the stone formations, her bioarmor adapting its coloration to match their surroundings. Marcus followed as quietly as he could manage, acutely aware of how clumsy he seemed in comparison. 12 hostiles, Zara whispered, her enhanced senses picking up details Marcus couldn't perceive. Mixed species, as reported. The hostages are being held in the central processing facility? What's the plan? I create a distraction from the east. You circle to the west and locate the prisoners. Ain't you have them secured? Signal me through our bond. Marcus nodded, trying to project more confidence than he felt. They separated, and he found himself alone among alien stone formations on a hostile world connected to Zara only by the gentle hum of their biomatrix link. He made it halfway to the processing facility before everything went wrong. The explosion came from the direction Zara had gone, followed immediately by the sharp crack of energy weapons. Through their connection, Marcus felt a spike of pain and rage that nearly brought him to his knees. She was in trouble, abandoning the rescue plan. Marcus ran toward the sound of combat. He crested a low ridge to see Zara pinned down behind a piece of mining equipment, 3 extremists advancing on her position with military precision. Her left arm hung at an awkward angle, and her bio-armor showed scorched damage across the chest. Marcus didn't think. The first extremist never saw him coming. Marcus tackled him from behind, and they went down hard against the rocky ground. The man's weapon skittered away across the stones, and Marcus scrambled for it even as the extremists tried to throw him off. "Human," one of the others shouted, swinging his weapon toward Marcus. Zara moved like lightning despite her injuries. She rolled from cover and fired in one fluid motion, her energy bolt catching the gunman's center mass. He dropped without a sound. The third extremist, a Catharian separatist, snarled something in his native language that Marcus's translator couldn't parse but which clearly wasn't complimentary. He raised his weapon toward Zara, who was trying to reload with one good arm. Marcus threw himself between them. The energy bolt caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending him crashing to the ground. Pain exploded through his body like liquid fire, but through their bond, he felt Zara's rage ignite like a star going nova. What happened next would stay with Marcus for the rest of his life. Zara became something beyond human understanding. She moved with impossible speed and precision, her injured arm somehow functional again, her bio-armor shifting and flowing like living mercury. The remaining extremist barely had time to scream before she was on him. When it was over, she knelt beside Marcus, her hands gentle, despite the violence she'd just unleashed. "Foolish human," she whispered, but her voice was thick with emotion. "Why did you put yourself in danger? Couldn't let him hurt you?" Marcus managed through gritted teeth. "You could have been killed. So could you." Zara's amber eyes searched his face, something shifting in their depths. "The bond," she said softly, "was affecting us both more than expected." She helped him to his feet, supporting his weight against her side. Together, they completed the rescue mission, freeing the hostages and securing the facility. But Marcus was acutely aware that something fundamental had changed between them. That night, Zara tended to his wounded shoulder in their shuttle's medical bay. Her touch was different. Gentle, careful, almost reverent. "Among my people," she said quietly as she applied a biogel bandage, "to risk one's life for another is the highest form of honor. What you did today, ... anyone would have done the same?" No, her fingers stilled. On his skin, they would not. "You barely know me, yet you threw yourself into harm's way without hesitation." Marcus caught her hand, feeling the subtle energy that flowed beneath her skin. "I know you better than you think," the connection shows. "Me, who you really are? And what do you see? Someone who pretends to be harder than she is. Someone who was taught to be a weapon but dreams of being something more. Someone who's lonely despite being surrounded by people who serve her." Zara's breath caught. "You see too much. Maybe. Or maybe not enough." They were very close now, her face inches from his. Marcus could see flecks of gold in her amber eyes, could feel her breath warm against his skin. "This complicates things," she whispered. "Everything's already complicated." When she kissed him, it was like completing a circuit. The biomatrix connection flared between them, and Marcus felt her emotions cascade through his consciousness. Longing, fear, hope, desire, all tangled together in a knot of feeling that took his breath away. When they finally broke apart, Zara rested her forehead against his. "We are in trouble, Marcus Webb," she said softly. "The best kind of trouble." He replied, and meant it completely. The days following their rescue mission brought a subtle but profound shift in their relationship. Publicly, Marcus and Zara maintained their roles as diplomatic symbols, attending negotiations with practiced coordination. Privately, their quarters had become a sanctuary, where they could explore the deepening connection between them. Marcus discovered that beneath her warrior exterior, Zara possessed a brilliant scientific mind. She had studied bioengineering before her military training, and she was fascinated by his xenobiology research. They spent hours discussing the theoretical applications of cross-species genetic compatibility, though their conversations often devolved into something more personal. Your species adapts through learning, Zara observed one evening as they shared dinner. Mine adapts through biological integration. Yet here we are, finding harmony. Maybe that's what makes it work, Marcus replied, watching the way candlelight played across her luminescent features. We complement each other's strengths. Through their biomatrix bond, he felt her pulse quicken at his words. The connection had grown stronger over the past week, allowing them to share not just emotions but sensations. When she smiled, he felt the warmth of it in his chest. When he laughed, she experienced the joy as if it were her own. It was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. The night of the Harmony Festival changed everything. The station's various species celebrated their own version of the ancient Darien tradition, filling the crystal corridors with bioluminescent displays and harmonic resonances that seemed to make the very walls sing. Zara had insisted they attend, claiming it was important for their diplomatic image. She emerged from her chamber wearing a dress that seemed woven from starlight itself. The fabric clung to her form while somehow maintaining an ethereal quality, shifting between silver and gold as she moved. Her blonde hair had been arranged in elaborate braids interwoven with luminous threads that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Marcus forgot how to breathe. You were staring, Zara observed, though her tone suggested she didn't mind. Can you blame me? He managed. You're extraordinary. Color rose in her pale cheeks, the first time he'd seen her blush. Through their bond, he felt her pleasure at his reaction mixed with something deeper, more vulnerable. The festival was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. Beings from dozens of worlds moved in synchronized dances that seemed to defy physics, their various forms of expression creating a symphony of light and sound and motion. Vendors offered delicacies that sparkled or sang or changed. Flavor based on the consumer's emotional state, Zara guided him through the celebration with easy familiarity, occasionally stopping to greet other Catharian delegates or explain the significance of various traditions. Marcus found himself mesmerized by the way she moved, the fluid grace that spoke of centuries of cultural evolution. In ancient times, she explained as they watched a group of Catharian dancers weave patterns of living light through the air, the Harmony Festival celebrated the connection between all living things, the belief that every consciousness contributes to a greater symphony. Is that what you believe? Marcus asked. She was quiet for a long moment, her amber eyes reflecting the dancing lights around them. I used to think consciousness was individual, separate but the bond with you, ... She turned to look at him directly. It has shown me that connection can exist across any barrier. Species, culture, evolution itself. The dancing continued around them, but Marcus was only aware of Zara. The way her lips curved when she spoke, the subtle energy that seemed to emanate from her skin, the growing certainty that what he felt for her had moved far beyond diplomatic necessity. Zara, he began, but she pressed a finger to his lips. Not here, she whispered. Too many observers. Yes. They made their excuses and returned to their quarters earlier than expected. The crystal walls had shifted to their night configuration, creating a warm, intimate glow that seemed to pulse with their combined heartbeats. Marcus, Zara said as the door sealed behind them, what is happening between us? ... It was not part of the original arrangement. No, it wasn't. He stepped closer, drawn by the magnetic pull of her presence. Does that make it wrong? It makes it dangerous. When the negotiations end, I must return to my homeworld. You must return to yours. This bond. She gestured between them. It will be dissolved. What if we don't want it to be? The question hung in the air between them, charged with possibility and fear in equal measure. Through their connection, Marcus felt Zara's internal struggle, duty warring with desire, obligation fighting with hope. My people would never accept a permanent bond with a human, she said finally, and yours would see me as an alien curiosity. At best, then maybe our people are wrong. Zara's eyes widened at his boldness. You would risk everything? Your career, your standing, your future? For you? Yes, the admission surprised them both. Marcus felt Zara's sharp intake of breath through their bond. He felt the way her pulse accelerated and her careful control wavered. "You cannot mean that," she whispered. "I've never meant anything more in my life." She moved toward him then, her usual warrior stride replaced by something more hesitant, more vulnerable. When she reached him, she placed her hands on his chest, and Marcus felt the energy that flowed beneath her skin. "This is madness," she said softly. "The best kind of madness." When she kissed him this time, it was different from their first kiss. Deeper, more desperate, filled with the knowledge that their time was limited. The biomatrix connection flared between them, and Marcus experienced her emotions as if they were his own. Longing, fear, love, hope, all cascading through his consciousness. In a torrent of feeling, they moved toward his sleeping chamber without breaking apart. Hands exploring, hearts racing, the bond between them singing with shared sensation. Zara's skin was warm silk beneath his touch, and when she gasped his name, he felt the sound reverberate through every cell in his body. They made love with the passion of beings who knew their time was borrowed. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered endearment was magnified by their connection, until Marcus couldn't tell where he ended and Zara began. She was fierce and gentle, powerful and vulnerable, alien and achingly familiar all at once. Afterward, lay entwined in the soft glow of the crystal walls, her blonde hair spread across his chest like spun starlight. Through their bond, Marcus felt her contentment, but also her growing sorrow. "This cannot last," she whispered against his skin. "Then we make the most of the time we have." Zara lifted her head to look at him, her amber eyes bright with unshed tears. "You would do that, knowing it must end? Loving you is worth any pain that comes after." She pressed her lips to his throat, and he felt her tears warm against his skin. "I love you too, Marcus Webb. Against all logic, against all wisdom, I love you completely." They spent the remaining hours before dawn, exploring each other with hands and hearts and minds. The biomatrix connection allowing them to share pleasure and emotion in ways that transcended anything either had experienced before. When morning came, they would return to their roles as diplomatic symbols. But for now, in the crystalline sanctuary of their quarters, they were simply two beings who had found something precious and impossible, and perfect in each other's arms. The countdown to their separation had begun, but Marcus refused to think about endings. There was only now, only Zara, only the impossible love that had bloomed between the stars. The summons came 3 weeks later, delivered by a Catherian courier, whose expression remained carefully neutral as he handed Zara the bio-sealed message tube. Marcus watched her read it, feeling her emotions shift through their bond from curiosity to dread to resignation. "I'm recalled," she said simply, setting the message aside. Marcus felt his world tilt. "When the transport arrives tomorrow, the negotiations have reached their conclusion ahead of schedule. Our political purpose has been served." The words hit him like physical blows. Through their connection, he felt Zara's own anguish carefully, controlled but devastating in its intensity. "What about us?" he asked. Zara turned to face him, her amber eyes bright with suppressed emotion. "You knew this day would come. Knowing and accepting are different things." Marcus ... double quotes, she began, then stopped. Through their bond, he felt her internal struggle intensify. "What aren't you telling me?" Zara closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, Marcus saw something that made his blood run cold. Fear. Real, genuine terror. "There is something you must know about the biomatrix bond," she said quietly. "Something I was not permitted to tell you before." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What?" "When the bond is dissolved, it is not merely ceremonial. The biointegration between us must be completely severed. For humans, this process is ... difficult. Define difficult. The Catherian biomatrix has been growing within you, adapting your cellular structure to maintain our connection. When it is removed, there may be consequences." Marcus stared at her, pieces of a horrible puzzle clicking into place. "What kind of consequences?" "Some cases, humans have experienced complete memory loss regarding their bonded partner. Others, permanent neurological damage." In rare instances, she couldn't finish the sentence. Death, Marcus said flatly. Zara nodded, tears now flowing freely down her pale cheeks. I wanted to tell you, but the diplomatic protocols forbade it. The bond was never meant to be as strong as ours has become. Marcus sat down heavily, his mind racing. How long have you known? I suspected when our connection began deepening beyond normal parameters. I confirmed it yesterday when I consulted with the medical staff. And you were just going to let me walk into this blind? I was trying to protect you. Zara's composure finally cracked. If I had told you earlier, would it have changed anything? Would you have loved me less? Desired me less? Or would you have simply carried the fear with you every moment we had together? Marcus considered this, feeling the truth of her words through their bond. She was right. Knowing wouldn't have changed how he felt, only colored every precious moment with dread. Is there an alternative? He asked. Zara hesitated. The bond could be maintained permanently, but that would require me to remain here, or you to come with. Me to my homeworld. Neither option is politically viable. Since when do we care about politics? Since refusing to dissolve the bond would be seen as an act of rebellion against both our species. It could restart the very war this arrangement was meant to prevent. Marcus stood and began pacing, his mind working furiously. There has to be another way. Marcus, please, do not make this harder than it already is. He turned to her, seeing the woman he loved more than his own life, and made a decision that surprised them both. Then we run. Zara stared at him. What? We? Disappear. Leave the station before your transport arrives. Find somewhere neutral, where we can be together without starting a war. That is insane. We would be fugitives. Our families, our careers, our entire lives would be meaningless without each other. Through their bond, Marcus felt Zara's shock at his words, followed by a surge of desperate hope that she tried immediately. To suppress, they would hunt us, she said. Both our species. We would never be safe. Then we'll stay ahead of them, together. Zara moved to the viewport, staring out at the stars. Marcus could feel her internal battle through their connection. Duty warring with love, obligation fighting with desire. There is a place, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. A system on the far edge of explored space. No government. Claims it, no species calls it home. If we could reach it, ... then that's where we go.